Greetings, this is Greg Aden with Aden Leadership, and I appreciate you joining me for the Servant Leadership Podcast. Today, we have an amazing man, a great guest, a powerful speaker, and we call him Luke Wyckoff. Luke, how are you today?
Doing great. Great to see you.
Good to see you. And you and I talked a little bit off air. We'll just make this a question and answer thing. Maybe I'll do some of the questions and you maybe do some of the answers, and we can go back and forth. But
that sounds good. I might have some questions for you too.
Good. I hope you do. I enjoy answering them. First of all, I want to talk about is you. I want to talk about what you do, Luke, and how did you get to where you are today, and really focus on why. Why do you do what you do?
Boy, how I got kind of where I am today. I have two very entrepreneurial grandfathers on both sides of my family, and my dad was a business owner also. So it kind of went through the generations, and I learned the value of hard work really from them. And one of the stories I love to tell is, we owned a construction company. So it was Wyckoff Construction. We were in business for over 60 years back in Michigan. Built banks, hospitals, supermarkets, big, beautiful custom homes. My dad, as the designer, would design them, and then the company would build them. My grandfather started the company. My father took it over. And one of my jobs growing up was going and working on the job site, cleaning things up. So I did a lot of cleanup, Greg, on the job sites, mostly on Friday afternoons. And I would get there and I'd be sweeping and putting things away and cleaning things up. And I can very distinctly remember one time, it was one of those moments where I was mad as hell, right? I just took the broom and I threw it down, and my grandfather looked at me and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I have no idea why do we do this? Why do we spend time cleaning up the job site on a Friday afternoon when all we're going to do is come back in here first thing Monday morning? This place is just going to be trashed again, and we're just going to have to clean up again next week. Why do we even spend the time doing it?" And he paused for a second, Greg, and he looks at me and he goes, "Because the owner of this property, Luke, tonight, he is probably going to have a scotch. And after he has that scotch, he's probably going to have a second scotch. And then when he gets to his third scotch, he's going to start calling up a few of his friends and saying, 'Hey, you want to come over and see my new property? You want to see my new supermarket? Do you want to see my new funeral home? Do you want to see my new house?' And when he brings those people over to this job site, whatever they see when they pull in here is a reflection of our family name."
Amen.
And so that's why we clean things up on a Friday afternoon, so that we are sending the right message as a quality builder to the rest of the people. And that story would be a microcosm of the answer to your question of how did I get to where I am today? It's all of these little nuggets of amazing wisdom that I pulled from my elders, and not just my father and my grandfather, but other amazing people in my life who I just honor and adore.
Tell me more about what it is you do as a consultant in social media, et cetera, and tell us a little about why you decided to go into that line of work.
Well, I had been in the world of industrial and organizational psychology, working with a human resources consulting firm called DDI, and worked with that company for 13 and a half years. I got to tell you, Greg, some of the smartest people I ever worked with in my life worked for that company. And we were in the world of leadership development, management training, succession management, a lot of executive assessment technology. Yeah. And I loved it. But at 2 years out of grad school, through the executive MBA program at CU, I decided to branch out on my own. So I was doing my own consulting work. And I got called in to do a huge project with a healthcare system here in Colorado. And I was working with them on succession management. So how do you identify high potentials, right?
Sure.
And I'm done with the presentation. And one of the CEOs says, "You started your whole company using LinkedIn and Facebook, didn't you?" Now, keep in mind, this was 12 years ago. I want everyone who's listening to this podcast to take a moment and think back. Where were you 12 years ago? Because that's when this conversation happened.
Okay.
And I said, yes, I did. He goes, what is that stuff? And I looked around the room at all the CEOs, or 13 CEOs in the room, and they all nodded their head. I said, you want to know about this? So I got up on the whiteboard and in perfect consultant mode, whiteboarded out a 3-month strategy for a $1.8 billion company.
Wow.
And I got done, and the CEO over the whole system says, well, he says, why don't you just do that for us? And I said, do what? He's like, all that stuff you just said you could do. I said, I didn't say I could do it. I said, this is what you should be doing. He goes, yeah, we don't, everybody knows how to do that here. Just do it for us. I said, so we're all on the same page here. You want to outsource your social media to me like you outsource accounting or IT? He's like, yep. Let me think about it. So I went and got my grad school buddies together, and we pro formed out the whole company because they'll do anything for single malt scotch. And we took the proposal back in, and they said, yep, let's do it. And so 12 years ago was born the company Social Media Energy. And that company grew to be one of the top 5 fastest growing private companies twice by the Denver Business Journal, and with over 400 clients. And God, what did I see as an end? I guess we had over 38,000 conversations just last year with, on behalf of our clients. And one of the things when we have leadership development day coming up on February 4th, one of the things you'll hear about is how I fired myself as the founder of that company. I'll tee that up for you. That'll be one of the stories that you get to hear next week when you tune in for that event.
Well, I want to go back to what you said about what you learned when you were sweeping out buildings. And the message was, because it's a reflection of who we are. Your brand, Luke, is you. Yes?
I would say yes. As far as the marketing, the chief marketing officer pieces that I put together, the consulting work that I do in that space for clients, it's pretty much me. But I can tell you, when it comes to Social Media Energy and the other companies that I own, I quickly learned to replace myself with someone who's far better than me, who also believes in the vision and can elevate that brand to the next level. And those are the people that I surround myself with today.
Sure. Well, reflection of who you are shows up every day. Would you agree?
In every action that you do, and even some of the actions that you don't do.
Right. And sometimes it's what we don't say is more powerful than what we do say. And so you, as a leader in this community, Denver is a small city. You and I both know it's more like a large town. We know a lot of the same people in your space, I know, and you know my space. Tell me, how do you believe people have really been able to succeed in Denver by being humble versus trying to succeed in Denver because they don't understand Denver? What would you say to that? It just came to me, and I'm curious your thought.
That's a really great question. I've seen executives come and go over the last 21 years that I've lived here. Executives that were, I'll call them flash in the pan executives, came in, tried to make a big splash, maybe made a couple of donations to a couple of places, but they come and they go. And they were not really fit maybe for the culture that they were trying to create in those companies.
Yeah.
And then I think of the folks who are the long-term CEOs, people that have been around a long time, who grew their families in this community, who dedicate themselves to giving back to this community. And that's a really important distinction,
Sure.
between those two, the folks who are flying through and then coming back through. And yeah, those are very, very different type of executives. And I think the big difference is the folks that really planted themselves here and really, really got into the community and maybe picked some not-for-profits that they would get passionate about. Those are the folks who I can remember in my head who are some of the best CEOs and executives that I've worked with over the years.
Well, let's talk about leadership. Let's talk about a little bit about the day coming up on the 4th, as you mentioned, but I want Luke Wyckoff to tell me, tell the audience what makes a great leader a great leader. In your wisdom and what you've read, what you believe to be true, if you were to be speaking to a group of graduate students who have been taught their whole life what management is, management training, and now they're learning more about leadership, what would Luke Wyckoff tell those people in the world? What makes a great leader a great leader?
Well, I could literally narrow it down to one
Okay.
thing. And this is not something I'll be speaking about next week. I believe one of your other amazing speakers will be talking about it. But the one thing that I've personally learned, and when I tell you this, Greg, it comes from, unfortunately, me not being successful and having to learn it.
Mm.
It was, I've been that leader, that guy who basically says, here's how it's going to go. And it's basically, there's two ways to do things. There's Luke's way and the wrong way. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been that guy.
Okay. Thank you.
And learned that is not a very good way to lead others if you intend on leading for a very long time.
Yeah.
Or, building, people talk about building trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
People will talk about all these other things that it takes to be an amazing leader. I will narrow it down to one thing: listen.
Mm.
I don't think people have mastered the art of shutting up. As a leader, you don't have to be the smartest cat in the room.
No.
No, you do not have to be the person who has all the answers.
No.
You do not have to be that person who needs to strut his or her peacock feathers to prove to everybody in the room that don't forget, at the end of the day, I am the big peacock in the room, right?
Right.
That's I've seen leaders that are like that, and I'm very embarrassed to say that in the past I was one of them.
No.
Absolutely. But when I started honing in my listening skills and realized that the people that work with me and the folks that have worked for me, each one of them have a story. Yeah. Each one of them have amazing ideas. Each one of them have dreams. Each one of them have goals. And when you start to get at the core of understanding the core of what makes a person be at the highest level of their productivity and be able to take away barriers or put things in place to help them be more successful, that's where true leadership starts to come into play.
Yeah. And first of all, I want to recognize you, Luke, for being humble enough to admit that you were one of those guys. You were one of those leaders, but it kind of takes at times, and you and I do a lot of leadership development training, and you have, and we do today. It takes some awareness, some acceptance as to who we are and what's not working, and we're all able to shift. We're all able to change if we want to. At some point in your career, and maybe for another conversation, what was going on at the time when you said to yourself or looked in the mirror or someone knocked you on the head and said, Luke, you need to be a better listener, my friend.
What if multiple people knocked me on the head? I laugh thinking that there was just one, right? Mm-hmm. I chuckle thinking there was just one. You said something very critical just now, Greg, that I want to bring all of your listeners back to, and that is, you said, if you want to. Mm-hmm. If you can make a change in your leadership style if you want to. I know so many people who just don't want to. Right. They just don't.
You're looking at a 58-year-old man that's reinventing himself as we speak. 7 years ago, when I started Aden Leadership, I left a big job and got divorced that same 6 months. And as I've told listeners before, please don't do that. Don't resign and get divorced in the same 6 months. Not a good idea. But I would tell you that I'm constantly reinventing myself, but it's not for me. My sons need it. My clients need it. My friends need it. My partners want it. And I ask myself all the time. And just driving up here to the studio, Luke, I was having a conversation with a young lady who's speaking at the conference, and we started this conversation about need versus want. And we were literally just coaching each other as to, well, what really makes sense? We don't need much. I want to know Luke, what you want. I want to know what your listeners are wanting, and I want to know what leaders believe they want to do in order to get better, because the people around them, some of them don't have the courage to say, hey, Luke, you're not listening.
Right.
But when we find out that you care and you want to be better, you'll actually ask, what can I do today to be a better leader? What can I do today to be a better dad, a better partner? And my God, can you imagine the conversations that would expose themselves if we showed our interest and our desire to serve others?
Now imagine if you were bold enough to think that you could fire yourself from some of those roles that you just talked about and recreate a whole new job description for what you'll look like tomorrow when you wake up.
I can't imagine if someone with your tenacity and courage and perseverance would actually create a listening for us maybe next week on the 4th. Would you do that?
I'm thinking that my topic next week, this is the best softball throw up in the world, right?
Yeah.
Where that is what I'm going to be talking about next week is having the courage to be able to fire yourself. And as you saw from a lot of my social posts today, it's not just about your job. It's not about your career. It's about negative behaviors. It's about a lot of other things that are also holding you back from the potential of the type of leader that you can be and want to be. Yeah. You just talked about something a moment ago. You said needs and wants, and every time I hear the whole conversation about needs and wants, I want to take that person, whoever is bringing up that topic, and I want to sit them down. And I want to say, let me tell you about spending 10 days at the lower level of the caste system in India, living on the ground with rats for 10 days as I'm waiting for the perfect National Geographic photo of the moment, getting in and living in the culture of people who have nothing. This slum, and they call them slums, area had 1.2 million people in it. It was a day and a half wait to get running water from one pump, right? And you sleep on the floor. The rats are the size of small cats. And because of the Hindu culture, the cows are sacred. So when a cow falls over, they don't move it. They don't touch it. It just, in the 100-degree heat with 100% humidity, it just rots. And that, with the fact that there is no sanitation system, people will just use the restroom wherever they want to. Okay. Well, why do I bring that up in the case of needs and wants? Why, Greg? Because I got to meet and experience some of the happiest people I've ever met in my life. The happiest. They didn't have anything in their lives except for the relationships of the people that they had around them. When that was their number one thing, that's all they valued, because they had nothing tangible of value. When you come back from a trip like that, you come back changed. And when people start talking about needs and wants, I almost laugh in the back of my head when someone's like, I need the new iPhone. I need an 80-inch screen because my 65-inch flat screen's not big enough. I need the new BMW because mine's 3 years old. I laugh and think, I know people who are waiting in line right now for a day and a half because they need a bucket of water.
Right.
Right? It totally changes your paradigm of needs and wants. And those are little things like that made me think about leadership.
Yeah.
It made me think about what are the true needs and wants of the people that work with me and the clients that I work with. What is that true need at the end of the day? Because what you find out is a lot of it is wants.
Yep. Well, and I believe we can serve as a leader the wants of somebody else, because at the end of the day, as a leader or as a coach or as a consultant as you are, we ask, what is it they do want? And then we try and help them with it. We try and serve them. We try and bring them what it is they say they want. And I like want over need, much like you do, because I then believe I'm aligned with the other person I'm serving, or the other team, or the organization. And if they want it, they will create it. If I want it, they're not going to be nearly as motivated. And let's put needs where they belong. There's probably 6 or 7 of them, 4, depending on where you're raised, that are truly important. But when we start serving somebody under the umbrella of wants, servant leadership comes up to me. And I'd like for you just to, I know you've thought about this before, but what does servant leadership mean to you? When you hear it, what does it mean, and how has it been played a part in your life or some of your relationships?
Well, it definitely has played a part in my life, and a lot of people have written on it. A lot of people have spoken about it. I'll give you my own definition, kind of how I feel what servant leadership is. It's putting others people's needs before your own, mm-hmm. and realizing that if you help enough other people get what they need, that what comes back to you is tenfold. And so my thought process is in servant leadership, it will go back to what we talked about at the beginning of this conversation. You start off by listening. Mm-hmm. Listening builds trust. Follow up and follow through builds trust. Yep. Once you've built trust with a team and they trust in your leadership of where you're bringing them, then you're spending your time helping them do what they need to do in order to. One of the questions I love to ask, which is a servant leadership style type of question, Greg, is what can I take away? What red tape is in your way today, mm-hmm. that's not helping you get done what you need to get done? And I would say more than 60% of the time, it's something that I can affect, that I can make a decision on. The other 40% is just, oh yeah, I'm sorry, that is difficult. and I'm sorry, I can't help you with that one. Right. Because there's a lot of things I can do. Defying the law of gravity is not one of them. Right. So being able to just take the barriers out of the way and help people get their job done more efficient, faster, and easier, meeting their personal and practical needs that they need as a team member or employee. I think that's why I'm really excited about some of the speakers that you have coming on February 4th. There's 2 or 3 that I have been following, that I have been friends with for a long time, that have built amazing cultures. Craig Hospital, come on. Yeah. Probably one of the finest facilities in North America. With a phenomenal leader. There were some really, really great companies and great speakers that you've got lined up that I'm excited to hear about. I'll be sharing my experiences and my stories with people and giving them very practical tips and tools that they'll be able to use to help fire themselves. Yeah. But you've got some other rock stars that I'm excited to hear.
Well, let me ask you this, Luke. When I first asked you to participate in the Leadership Development Day, and I introduced the concept to you, 2 questions really. What did you think about that? And then why did you decide to participate?
The first one, what did I think about it? I thought it's about time. I'm glad someone is putting together this topic. So needed at this time. The second part of it, why I wanted to be part of it, is that I do have an interesting story to tell. Yeah. I've lived a fascinating life that I'm very proud of, and there are a lot of learning things that I hope that when I talk to other people, they're going to nod and they're going to go, "Me too. Me too." And I have solutions for a lot of that. Me too. Good. And I thought if you're going to open up the opportunity to put a platform together for that, I definitely wanted to be part of it.
Wow. A lot of people are going to learn for you, Luke Wyckoff. You're a hell of a man, a great leader, a beautiful soul. I know a lot of people that think the world of you, and I'm going to tell you this as honest as I possibly can. I feel extremely blessed and fortunate that you are part of the day on February 4th, and thank you again for your time this morning.
Excellent. Thank you. Great to be part of it. Looking forward to next week.
All right. That was Luke Wyckoff, who joins us here on the Servant Leadership Podcast. Again, this is Greg Aden with Aden Leadership, wishing you a blessed day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.